Boom, we're live now.
Yeah.
Another question we get all the time. How much money do I need to buy a house? Which, I mean, that's got to be probably one of the most common questions.
Yep.
You know? So with that, let's give the audience a little intel there. For the amount of money you need, there's down payment and closing costs, right? There's two separate things. What's the difference between the two?
Well, the down payment is pretty much the amount of money you're putting down to buy a house, depending on what loan program you're using, right?
Right.
Whether that's an FHA, conventional,
Right.
VA has 0% down, right?
Right. So it's a percentage
It's
of
a
the purchase
percentage of
price.
the purchase price
Right.
that you're putting down to purchase a home. And closing costs are pretty much all the fees related to purchasing a house, right?
Right.
Taxes, insurance, title policy, if the buyer's paying some of the title policy, title fees, all that kind of
lending
fun
fees,
stuff. Yeah, lending fees. That's pretty
Everything.
much closing costs.
Yeah.
And I think a little people gets confused too because they're always asked like who pays what, right?
Yep.
Well, I think especially here in the Dallas, we always see about 3% of the sales price when it comes to closing costs for
Right.
the buyers.
Right.
And usually sellers are what, about 2%?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Typically, sellers are a little bit less.
Yeah, a little bit less, 2%. But at the end of the day, if you're on the buyer's seat, right, there's ways that you can negotiate or bring down your closing costs by negotiating seller concessions, right?
Right.
That's why it's important to work with an agent or a lender who knows how to play with seller concessions because there's opportunities where you could get into a house with no money out of pocket for closing costs where you can negotiate the full amount.
Right.
And another video we can do the limits if you
Right.
want, but
So we could typically say that like for a down payment on average, if you're a first time home buyer, we could say 3% of the purchase price, and that's just based on lending guidelines. Because a lender, unless you're doing VA or USDA, they're not going to give you 100% financing, 100% value. They want you to have a little bit of skin in the game. So for most first-time home buyers, 3% of the purchase price for your down payment and then closing costs, we could say on average is 3% as well, and that comes out of the buyer's pocket. But there is a way to get the seller to pay for the 3% in closing costs.
And that's why it's important to work with someone, like I said, that knows how to negotiate on that, negotiate closing costs on your behalf. But which takes me to the next question, man. The question for you, like, is there any programs that help you reduce how much money out of pocket you need?
Oh, yes. There's programs, but there's also just strategies that you can do as well. I mean, we get this a lot right now in the time we're in. It's actually a good time for first-time home buyers who are low on cash to purchase right now because you can get your closing costs covered because we're not in a super hot market right now where there's a ton of buyers and not many sellers. So sellers are getting whatever they ask for, right? But as far as programs, if you're a veteran, you get qualified for a VA loan. It's 0% down. USDA, they are typically a little bit harder to get qualified for, but you can go as 0% down with that as well. And then conventional is 3% down as a first-time home buyer, 5% down as not a first-time home buyer. FHA is 3.5% down, and then there's down payment assistance programs out there too, to where you can get a grant, or you can, in the form of a second lien, you can get another portion from the lender that actually covers your down payment.
So if somebody doesn't have enough cash to close, like what will be the next step for them to qualify for something like that?
Yeah, we run into it all the time, and that's why it's important for the lender to review the docs to see how much exactly do you have, and maybe you were thinking about finding a house or making an offer and just paying for your down payment and closing costs, but what if you don't have enough to cover? Okay, now we need to strategically change our offer. Maybe we go up a little bit on the sales price because it's based on a percentage. Your down payment really isn't going to increase that much, but we ask for the sellers to cover the closing costs. And it won't be exact, but for lack of a better phrase, we cut your cash to close in half. Because now you're only responsible for your down payment versus your cash to close. So that's one strategy. Another one that a lot of people don't know that you can do is actually get a gift from a family member or a friend.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Yeah, we do it all the time. So it's as simple as like, if you got great parents, asking mom or dad, hey, can I borrow an extra couple thousand? I'm a little short on the cash to close. And as long as we verify that it's an eligible gift donor and we have a signed gift letter from you, the borrower, and the relative or whoever is going to give the gift, and they send the money to title on the day of closing or before, it's totally good. So there's multiple ways to get your cash to close down.
Nice. Which, it leads me to another question that a lot of people ask in terms of like how much the money you put down affects your monthly payment. And I think that that question comes because a lot of people talk about the PMI, or if you don't put 20%, then you have to pay the PMI and all this. And I think that it's like all this extravagant amount of money that you have to pay if you don't put 20% down. So why don't you explain a little bit more how your monthly payment actually changes depending on how much you put down?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you don't have to be a math wizard to understand that if you put more down, your loan balance is going to be less, and therefore your monthly payment is going to be less. So yes, if you go from 3% down to 20 to 50% down and your loan balance is going lower, your monthly payment is going to be less. However, it's not as much as you think. So for example, going from 3 to 5% down or 5 to 10% down can be like another 30 to 50 grand, whatever, depending on the price point of the house. So you're having to shell out thousands of dollars, and it may drop your monthly payment by like $200, $300. You know what I mean? So it's like, it may be just wiser to just put the minimum down that you need and actually hold on to that money. Maybe that's not for you. Maybe, you have plenty of assets. So you're like, I want to put 20% down or 30 or whatever the number is. But for most people, I think it just strategically makes more sense to put the minimum down and then keep the rest and invest the rest in whatever, And then I mean, I have this conversation all the time with buyers that, not you, but other realtors are like, yeah, you need to put 20% down to avoid PMI.
That's why you don't work with other realtors.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is some truth to that if you don't have a good credit score, because if you have a good credit score, your PMI or your mortgage insurance that's required on conventional loans, if you put less than 20% down, it would be high. But if you have like an 800 FICO, it's perfect. Your mortgage insurance is like less than $100 a month. It's, you know what I mean? So it's just like you could do 3% down with $100 a month in mortgage insurance, or you can put 20% down. So you're going from maybe a $10,000 down payment to a $50,000 down payment, but you're only saving $100 a month.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to one thing, man, which is what I like about real estate and the lending part of it is it's almost like a plug and play.
Yep.
There's no one solution for everything.
Yep.
There's different ways that you can manipulate the numbers where it might make more sense to put more down, or it might not, you know, and or you can use some of that money. You can use the same $10, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can use the same extra $10,000 that you put in to lower your payment for $150, or using that to buy down your rate and have a lower monthly payment. So
if you're talking about bang for your buck, like I want to use this is a really good analogy. So let's just say you have $10,000. And right now you're putting 5% down, but you're thinking about taking this extra 10,000 and putting more down. So towards the principal. So maybe it goes to, let's just say 7% down. That, or you have that 10,000 and you can use it to buy down the rate. Buying down the rate will significantly lower the monthly payment more than putting more money down on a house.
Exactly.
I could literally pull up an Excel spreadsheet and I could say, hey, we're going to take this 10,000 and use it more towards a down payment or more towards a rate buy down, and the monthly payment difference would be astronomical.
Exactly.
So we intentionally, we really want what's best for you and what's going to make the most sense. Maybe it is you want to put more towards the down payment. Exactly. But for most, it's the monthly payment.
And that's why, man, is that we're doing this, right? This is the type of thing that a lot of people in the industry don't share.
Yep.
But we're here to help people win.
Yep.
In buying or selling their houses. So, yeah, if you want to run those numbers, run different scenarios, you know who to reach out.
That's right. Yep. Find us on social media. Click the link below. We'll help you out.
Let's go.